how do you react to what your party has done today in moving from Susan Lee to Angus Taylor?
Well, I think it was highly likely once the polls had got to the situation they were in. So it's tough on Susan, but and she hasn't had very long to prove herself. But you know, politics is governed by the iron laws of arithmetic, as John Howard always used to say.
Is Angus Taylor the answer, though, to the Liberal Party's current set of problems?
No, he's absolutely not. No leader is. What they really need to do is move back to the centre. They've got to start talking about the economy and talking about it not just in bland, motherhood statements, lower taxes, less government, all that stuff. They've got to actually have some plans. They've got to demonstrate that they're serious people and that they're thinking about the changes that can be made to make the Australian economy grow faster and to be fairer. They've got to have positive, detailed plans to promote housing affordability. They've got to have detailed plans about tax reform. They can't just get away with soundbites that may go down well on Sky News, which, as Patricia's been saying, is where a lot of their branch members live, because that is not real Australia. At least it's not middle Australia.
So when you talk about detailed plans, often we're told, look, it's just too hard from opposition to do that sort of hard work and detailed work. It's going to get picked apart by the government and all the machinery the government has at its disposal. You're saying, no, in opposition, they're really going, and the point that the Liberal Party is currently facing, this very, very low ebb, they're going to have to do that detailed work. They're going to have to put out, even early in this term, we're still a couple of years away from when the election's due, that sort of detailed policy to turn things around.
Yes, I think they do, because they've got to regain their credibility on the economy. You see, during the Morrison government, the spendathon there, shook a lot of people's confidence. The extravagance of it shook a lot of people's confidence in the Liberals' economic management. Dutton's term as opposition leader did even more damage to that. Like crazy things like saying the government's going to build, 8 or 9 nuclear power stations around the country. There was literally nobody in the energy sector that thought that was a good idea, not one person. So, if you're the Liberal Party and you've got business reform, tax reform, efficiency reforms that you want to propose, you've got to be able to get some backers from the business community, you've got to have some third-party endorsements, and they lack that. So they've got to stop living in this right-wing populist bubble, which is where they've been and which has been so catastrophic for them, and get back and sound like serious business people wanting to get a better outcome for Australia. Now,
What about the cultural stuff, though? Whether it's using an Indigenous flag or an Australian flag or both or not, whether it's the welcomes to country, whether it's some of the elements around the immigration debate. I mean, clearly some elements have an economic aspect to them, but some of the issues around values and so on. Would Conservatives argue it's important that we win back those who've drifted to one nation by talking about these things? Do you accept that, or do you think that's folly?
I think it is. I think it's not a black or white issue, right? But if you think you are going to win back people who have gone to Hanson by showing yourself to be even more tough or anti-immigration than her, that's a game you can't win. So you see, they've got to get out of that bubble. They're trapped at the moment. I mean, Sky News and the Murdoch media have been the best thing that has ever happened to the Labor Party, because they've dragged the Liberal Party off to the right. I mean, this was the battle I always had when I was Prime Minister. As you remember, David, my problems were not really with the Labor Party, but it was with people like Angus Taylor and Tony Abbott and their friends in the media, who were Dutton and co, these guys have got control of the Liberal Party, absolutely. They had control over Dutton, they burnt it to the ground. They've now got their man in again with Angus Taylor. Will they do even more damage? There's not a lot left to burn. But, the problem is that, unfortunately, the people that are backing Angus, particularly in the media, they want him, and you can hear this, you've been talking about it, they want to go off and go further to the right and show that they're even more right-wing and populist and, anti-immigration, anti-multiculturalism, anti-Aboriginals, all of those things. than Pauline Hanson. Well, that's a battle you can't win.
So Malcolm
They've got to
Turnbull.
start talking about the economy.
So Malcolm Turnbull, I mean, that's an interesting point you make. Andrew Hastie early on was, of course, putting himself forward. He withdrew. The Conservatives threw their support behind Angus Taylor, and so he withdrew. He would have been a very different choice right now. Is Angus Taylor right for the times? Even if you're going down that road of appealing to that one nation vote, is he the one that would even do that?
Well, I mean, Angus, if that's the direction Angus is going to take, that will just condemn the Liberal Party to further irrelevance. I mean, the curious thing about a lot of people say about Angus Taylor is he is the best qualified idiot they've ever met. I mean, this is a tough thing to say, but that what they're saying is this guy's got all these degrees, he's got all of these qualifications, he's a Rhodes Scholar, mind you, they're a dime a dozen. Look at me and Tony Abbott. But the bottom line is that he has not delivered the sort of the positive policy agendas, the real achievements in government that you'd expect from somebody with those qualifications. I mean, he ensured the coalition went to the last election, allowing the Labor Party to say, honestly, vote Labor for lower taxes. Honestly, to say that. This wasn't rhetoric, it was the absolute truth. Now, that's why people like me and Costello and others who'd been fairly experienced in politics were reeling and saying, my God, what madness is this? And so Angus, the thing that there's this mismatch, this hugely qualified resume on the one hand, and then when you look at what he's actually done in politics, so far it's been very disappointing. Now, look, who knows? He could, as I said, there's always people get second and third chances. Maybe he'll do a blinder as opposition leader, but he's got to get out of that right-wing bubble and he's got to focus on the real needs of Australia. The problem at the moment is there's only one major party that is operating in the centre of Australian politics, and that's the Australian Labor Party. And
Malcolm Turnbull, it's Melissa Clarke here. I just want to press you on this idea of not playing to the right wing bubble and the base, but you yourself and subsequent Liberal Party leaders, Scott Morrison, Peter Dutton, Susan Lee, and now Angus Taylor, have to deal with the fact that in the party room sit people of very different political ideas, and the difficulty of saying, I want to take the party in this direction. You still have to manage that tension that is within the party itself. That was a difficulty for you, a difficulty for successors. How can Angus Taylor succeed in doing that when his predecessors haven't?
Well, he has the advantage of being tribally one of them. So that's an advantage. But he's still got to move back to the centre because if all you're doing is winning the approval and adulation of Sky News and the right-wing commentariat, then you cannot win in our Australian democracy. I mean, this is not just me saying this. I mean, Paul Kelly, one of the most distinguished political commentators and historians in our country, writing in The Australian, which is part of that right-wing media bubble, has made exactly that point.
Sure, but it's not just Angus Taylor that needs to do that. You need to have the other party members who are in the parliamentary party accept that.
Melissa, you're absolutely right, and that is why a lot of people think the Liberal Party is cooked. There's a lot of people think the Liberal Party is incapable of revival because its membership, both in the Parliament and in the branches, is so old, so right-wing, so living in a parallel universe. I mean, look at Alex Antic on the 7:30 report last night. Clearly he idolises Pauline Hanson and doesn't make any bones about it. Well, the craziness of this. I mean, just think about Antic for a minute. He basically has control of the South Australian Liberal Party, very right-wing guy. South Australia is one of the most small L Liberal jurisdictions in Australia. It, ACT and Victoria would be the three most small L Liberal. And the Liberal Party is in the hands of the far right. And no wonder they are facing electoral wipeout at the state election.
So to that end, Malcolm Turnbull, there's been, as you well know, plenty of chatter about is now the time for a new party to emerge that would incorporate some of those teal independents and disaffected Liberals and so on. Is this the moment? If Angus Taylor doesn't somehow provide this recovery that the Liberals might hope he will, is now the moment for a new party to emerge. And are you involved in any way in talks about that sort of move?
Well, I talk about politics all the time, so I'm always talking about this, and I've been raising this issue for quite a while. But no, I'm not about to set up a new party, and I'm not aware of anyone about to set up a new party. But I think there is this yawn. Look, if you believe the middle ground, the centre is where contestation in Australian politics should occur, the centre right, what used to be called the centre right, is no longer there. I mean, this is you can say many things about Anthony Albanese. He must be the luckiest Prime Minister ever, because he's made quite a bit of his own luck. I give him a lot of credit for that. But his opponents have just blown themselves up again and again, to the point where they're really questioning whether the Liberal Party, which had been the most successful party in Australian political history, is about to go into oblivion. And, if Angus Taylor's answer to solving that is to head back to try to recapture those One Nation votes that are, watching Sky News in the regions or whatever, that will just make it even less likely that they can be competitive at the centre. And unless they can do that, they're not a viable contender as an alternative government.
So does someone need to step in with a centre-right party, a new party?
Well, I think that the goal is open. But yes, the goal is open for someone to step up and do it. I think there is an opportunity there, but whether it will be taken, starting new parties, pulling old parties, busted parties together like Menzies did in the 40s, is very challenging, and you need a special type of leadership to do that. But I think there is a gap there. I mean, there are the idea that the Liberal Party is effectively inching closer to Pauline Hanson, and you've got Liberal Party figures like Antic, they're praising Pauline Hanson, and you've now got the right-wing media kind of rehabilitating Hanson. I mean, she is becoming, the darling of the Murdoch media. I mean, this is wild stuff, and so it's as though they want the Labor Party to be in government forever.